Well, about 11 years ago, my life changed. And that was when I met my wife, Monica, who's standing right over there. Now, I was no longer alone. I had a teammate for life. Well, our lives changed 2 weeks after our first anniversary when we had our first child. I was sitting down and I was talking to her, and we were talking about wow, we're parents. Any first-time parent, you're overwhelmed with it. Here, this little child is completely helpless. And she helped me realize, well, actually, she made me realize that it was no longer about me. At that point in my life, everything I had done, every decision I had made was based on what's best for me. How's it going to benefit Jay? Well, at that point, it completely changed. It was no longer about me. It was about my kids. What can I do for them? Because I'm sure I share the same fear that every parent shares. How am I going to prepare my children for the world? How am I going to ensure that when they enter society that they're prepared for what the world's going to throw at them? Well, it's simple. You educate them. You teach them about business. You teach them about economics. You teach them about what it means to be an American. Why we are the greatest and freest society that the world has ever seen. Prime example. Last year I'm driving home from football. Here, my 8-year-old son's sitting there and we're listening to the radio, and the gentleman on the radio starts talking about socialism. And my son looks at me and says, Daddy, well, okay, hang on. He was 8 years old. He was too old to say Daddy. He said, Dad, what is socialism? So here you have this 8-year-old kid that's just asked me to define something that not many people can define. I don't even know if I did it right. But not only did he ask me to define it, he asked me to explain what it was. And so I'm thinking, how do I put this in terms that an 8-year-old can understand? I said, baby, you love hunting. Imagine you have a plot of land. You spend an entire year preparing this plot of land. You plant the corn, you plant the clover, you build the feeders, you build your stand. You work yourself to the bone getting this plot of land ready for deer season. Now, deer season comes, you're the one that gets up at 4 in the morning. You're the one that goes out in that freezing cold and sits in that stand freezing your tail off. Well, all of a sudden, deer season gets there and you're in that stand and it starts to pay off. You see that big buck cross the field, he walks right in your line of fire, you lower the gun and you take him down. At that moment, you feel more pride than you've ever felt in your entire life. Why? You have just accomplished what you worked an entire year to accomplish. So you scramble down that stand, you run out to that deer, and you're going to claim your prize. You're going to take what you've worked so hard to get. Well, as you get to it, a bureaucrat walks up to you and says, no, Jaron, you don't get that deer. In fact, we're going to cut it in half. You get half of it, we're going to give the other half to people that don't hunt. I said, baby, that is what socialism is. And he looks at me. The beauty of he looked at me and he said, Dad, if I want to give it to people, that should be my choice. It's unfair that they take it from me. Yeah. So here you have this beautiful 8-year-old little mind that has already put into words everything we're facing. Now, I'm one of those guys, I love old sayings. The reason I love old sayings, there's a reason they're old sayings. There's truth to them. One of my favorites from a philosopher named George Santayana. I'm sure all of y'all have heard this before. If you don't learn from your past, you're doomed to repeat it. Bear with me for a second and listen to these. If from the more wretched parts of the old world, we look at those which are in an advanced stage of improvement, we still find the greedy hand of government thrusting itself into every corner and crevice of industry, grasping the spoils of the multitude. Invention is continually exercised to furnish new pretenses for revenue and taxation. It watches prosperity as its prey and permits none escape without tribute. Does that sound like something you could hear today? Thomas Paine, 1791. How about this one? I don't believe in a law to prevent a man from getting rich. It would do more harm than good. So while we do not propose any war upon capital, we do wish to allow the humblest man an equal chance to get rich with everybody else. Abraham Lincoln, 1860. Now, next one. It's a paradoxical truth that tax rates are too high and tax revenues are too low. And the soundest way to raise revenues in the long run is to cut the tax rates now. Cutting tax rates now is not to incur a budget deficit, but to achieve the more prosperous, expanding economy which can bring a budget surplus. John F. Kennedy, 1962. Now, does that sound like anything you could hear today? Could that be in any publication for somebody arguing against what is going on? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a choice. Right here, right now, we do have a choice. Our country is at a crossroads. We can go one way or the other. Future generations will look back at this moment in time, and they will say, this is when the world changed. Down one path, we can accept an oppressive tax burden that is borne on the shoulders of every American taxpayer. We can accept huge entitlement programs that stifle all economic growth. We can relinquish our freedoms through our purse string. Basically, we can accept a socialistic agenda that has proven to fail every time it is tried. Or we can take our country back. We can continue to engage. We can continue to educate ourselves and our fellow citizens as to what is actually at stake. We can scream from the mountaintops, this is not the country our founding fathers envisioned when they signed that great Constitution. This is not the country of my father and my grandfather. More importantly, we can fight to ensure that future generations on down the line will enjoy the same freedoms and chances of prosperity that you and I can enjoy. Now, you see, we do have a choice. It's up to us. It's not up to Washington. It's not up to politicians. It's not up to the media. It's not up to the people who say it is so because they say it is so. It's up to us. We do have a choice. But if we don't learn from our past, we're doomed to repeat it. Thank you all. God bless.